All right, so you want to talk about a classic. Let's dive into The Richest Man in Babylon. I think we both agree we're not just after like a book report summary here.
Right.
It's about pulling out those timeless principles.
Yeah, and it's surprising, right? I mean, 1926 going all the way back to ancient Babylon.
Hmm.
You'd think financial advice from then wouldn't quite apply anymore.
Exactly. And, I started reading it. I was expecting, gold and those hanging gardens. But honestly, I was surprised by how relatable the setting felt. Like, yeah, Babylon was this wealthy place, but they didn't start with every
Yeah,
advantage.
you hit a good point there. The book actually talks about how the Babylonians, they engineered their prosperity.
Mhm.
They had problems just like we do. Like, think about their irrigation system, those massive projects.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of highlights this whole lesson of resourcefulness.
Makes you think, right? It wasn't just about what they had, it was about how they thought. Which I guess takes us to Arcad, right? The richest man in Babylon.
Hmm.
But the story isn't just about how rich he got, but like the journey, his whole mindset.
And that's what's so great about it. Like, he wasn't born rich or anything.
Right.
He started as a scribe, wanted to learn, messed up a few times.
Yeah.
It's encouraging,
Yeah.
you know?
Totally. He reminds me of all those people who email us, eager to learn. Although I gotta admit, when he fell for that fake jewel scam,
Oh, yeah.
classic, shows that we all make mistakes even with the best intentions.
And that's where a good mentor comes in handy. Like Algamish, the moneylender.
Yeah.
Remember what he told Arcad? Every fool must learn, but why trust a brickmaker about jewels? Tough love, but needed.
Ouch. Sometimes you need that, though. But that leads us to, like, the heart of it all. Arcad's 7 cures for a lean purse. And they're not some complicated thing. Each one is a practical step you can take.
Absolutely, and the first one is huge for building that foundation. Start thy purse to fattening. And the example he gives is so simple. It's about this egg merchant who just puts aside a tenth of everything he earns.
It doesn't sound like much, but
It adds up.
that consistency, I mean, think about how easy we have it now. Automated. Just a small percentage every time can grow like crazy over time.
It really is like planting a seed.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of taking care of something, that brings us to cure number 2, control thy expenditures. I love the analogy Klassen uses here, the pack ass. It's about only carrying what you need for the journey. No extra burdens.
He's talking about budgeting right. And sure, we've come a long way from clay tablets, but it's about making conscious choices. Where is your money actually going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Prioritizing. What do you absolutely need, and what are those long-term goals? And once you've got that under control, that's when you focus on making that money work for you. Cure number 3, make thy gold multiply. And the story he tells about the farmer
Yeah.
investing for his son as soon as he's born. By the time the son is grown, it's this huge amount. That's the magic of compound interest.
It's like the Babylonian origin story of index funds. You got to start early, even with small amounts. It's a long game.
It is. What about you? Out of these first 3 cures, anything really hit home for you?
Honestly, it's how straightforward they are. It's not about some crazy get-rich-quick scheme. It's about having a strong foundation, saving, budgeting, investing smart. It's really timeless stuff. Building that foundation is key,
Yeah.
and you gotta protect it.
Oh, absolutely.
Which brings us to cure number 4, guard thy treasures from loss. This is where Klassen gets into those cautionary tales. It's like he's saying, hey, misfortune's out there and it loves an easy target.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's like he knew about those spam emails we get now, the ones promising like 1,000% returns.
Oh, yeah, total scams.
Right. You got to be careful. Do your research. If something sounds too good to be true.
It probably is.
Exactly. But don't let that paralyze you. I'm not saying don't invest. Just be informed.
Find people you trust to advise you. Makes you think, though. Like, we've got it good. Arcad didn't have financial advisors or websites dedicated to this stuff.
And podcasts.
Right. There's so much information out there.
Okay, so speaking of making good decisions, cure number 5. This one's a biggie. Make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. Owning a house isn't quite the same as it was back then, but
Because
the principle's the same.
it's for savings in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you build that equity over time, which takes us nicely into cure number 6. Ensure a future income. I'm telling you, Klassen was ahead of his time. Land investments, setting aside savings. He even talks about something that sounds a lot like insurance for your family.
It's a human need, right? Security, knowing you've got a plan for the future. But cure number 7, this one gets personal. Increase thy ability to earn.
Invest in yourself. Never stop learning. That's how you become more valuable. Like, what was it, the chariot builder who gets himself a raise?
By honing his craft.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's true for us too. You got to keep learning. Find ways to improve what you do best.
Side hustles, professional development, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But you know what really brings this to life?
What's that?
The stories.
Oh, tell me about it. Klassen knew how to tell him. Like, remember the cloth weaver who finds all that gold?
And loses it all just as
Because he
fast.
didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Proof that money doesn't solve all your problems.
You got to have the knowledge, too.
You said it. Then there's that camel trader. Loses everything, becomes a slave. And still claws his way back to the top.
Oh, man, that one gave me chills. Talk about resilience. He took responsibility and made a plan.
It's inspiring. All right, so out of all those tales, which one really stuck with you?
Honestly, the ones where they took control. Klesson wasn't saying wait for good luck. He was saying take charge. Luck might play a role, but it's your actions that really matter.
100%. And speaking of impactful messages, those 5 laws of gold.
Oh, yeah, those are like the 10 commandments of personal finance straight from ancient Babylon.
Right. And the first one sets the tone. Gold cometh gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family.
Pay yourself first. We hear it all the time, but it's so true.
Absolutely. And that gold you saved, second law, put it to work.
Make it multiply.
Gold laboreth diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, multiplying even as the flocks of the field.
Okay, that's a visual right there. Love it. So you're not just stuffing it under a mattress.
Nope. You're finding smart investments.
Which leads us to law number 3.
Right. Gold clingeth to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling.
Do your homework. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Exactly. And that shiny object syndrome, forget about it. Law number 4 is here to save you. Gold slippeth away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar, or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep.
So many people need to hear that one.
Right. Don't fall for the hype.
Stick to what you understand.
Okay, and to wrap it up, law number 5. This one's about staying grounded. Gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who followeth the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment.
Slow and steady wins the race.
It does. Wealth building isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a marathon. You need patience, discipline, realistic expectations.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
And neither is a solid financial future.
Exactly. You know, it's funny, these laws, they're so simple when you say them like this, but
Make a bunch.
they really do. But there's more to this book than just the practical money stuff. It's about character, too. Wisdom. And those stories we tell ourselves about wealth.
So true. It's about finding fulfillment, right? Living
Right.
a meaningful life.
And speaking of meaningful lives, before we move on, Davisir, that story really hit me. The spear maker who ends up in debt and has to rebuild everything.
Oh, Davis here. He's like the everyman of Babylon. So relatable.
Right. He's not a king or some big shot merchant. He's just a regular guy who messed up financially.
Yeah.
It gives me hope, you know.
It shows anyone can turn things around.
And the best part is, he follows the same principles we've been talking about this whole time. He budgets, he saves, he finds a mentor. He took control.
Yeah. And it reminds us no matter where you're at with your finances.
There's always hope.
Exactly.
And sometimes the best lessons come from the people who've really struggled, who've come out stronger on the other side.
I love that. So are you ready for the grand finale?
Oh, yeah. Hit me with those clay tablets.
Let's do it. This is where things get really interesting.
So we've covered a lot of ground. Those 7 cures, the 5 laws, even heard stories about how people in ancient Babylon handled their money.
Yeah.
But then right at the end of The Richest Man in Babylon, Clayson throws in these clay tablets from Babylon.
Yeah.
And it's like a whole new layer to the story.
It really is. Instead of just hearing about what Arkad taught people, we get to see it firsthand through the eyes of Dabasir.
Right. And Dabasir, he's keeping these clay tablets like a journal. It's his own personal finance journey, except back then it was on clay, not a nap.
Yeah. And talk about relatable. Dabasir, he wasn't some big financial expert.
No, not at all.
He was just a normal guy who made some bad decisions, got into debt.
It's kind of comforting in a way.
It is. It's like, hey, even back then, people struggled with this stuff.
Totally. And it's cool to see how he used those 7 cures to turn things around. Like, step 1. He starts putting aside a portion of everything he earns, just like that egg merchant we talked about.
The oldest trick in the book.
Right. Pay yourself first.
It works.
Whether it's ancient Babylon or setting up a direct deposit.
I love that. And Dabasir, he doesn't stop there. He starts looking at his spending habits, too,
Uh-huh.
remembering that whole pack-ass analogy. Not about deprivation. It's about being intentional.
Making sure your money's going where you want it to.
Exactly. Needs versus wants. That's key.
Mm.
And slowly but surely, he starts to build up some savings.
Right.
And this is where it gets interesting. He doesn't just go and blow it all.
He's learned his lesson.
Right. He actually seeks out guidance.
Mm.
He wants to make his gold multiply, but he's going to be smart about it.
Mm.
Just like those 5 laws say.
I mean, think about all the investment options out there today. It can be overwhelming.
Tell me about it.
So having someone you trust, doing your research, that's timeless advice.
It really is. But here's the thing about Debasier's story. It's not just about the numbers.
Okay.
It's about how he changes as a person.
Uh-huh.
He starts out ashamed of his debt. He even runs away for a while.
He did. I'd forgotten about that part.
But when he commits to his financial plan, something shifts. He gains this confidence, this self-respect.
That's so powerful. It's like that feeling when you finally get a handle on your finances.
Empowering?
Totally, like a huge weight lifted. De Bessières shows us that financial well-being, it's not just about having a fat bank account.
It's about feeling in control.
Exactly. And having the freedom to make choices that align with your values.
100%.
Mhm.
His story is a message of hope. You know, like no matter how bad things get,
There's always a way
I
back.
can turn things around. And not by winning the lottery or anything, but through those same principles we keep coming back to. Saving diligently, spending wisely, making your money work for you,
The long game.
the long game.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the richest man in Babylon, the thing that really sticks with me is
Love that.
the world's changed a lot since ancient Babylon, but those core principles of building wealth still apply.
It's amazing, isn't it? A book written almost 100 years ago about a time of chariots and clay tablets. It still resonates today. Those principles are timeless.
So to all our listeners out there, take these Babylonian principles,
Yeah.
not as like hard and fast rules, but
Sing.
guiding lights for your own financial journeys.
Because no matter where you're at,
Whether you're just starting out
or you're already a financial whiz.
there's always something to learn.
Absolutely. Remember, you have the power to change your financial destiny.
It's about making conscious choices, building those good habits.
And being consistent.
Even small steps in the right direction add up over time.
You never know, you might end up even richer than Arcad himself.
Haha,
Huh?
that's the goal, right? This has been a fantastic deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
You too.
Until next time, happy saving, happy investing, and remember,
What's that?
the journey to financial freedom. It's a marathon, not a sprint.